welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing the fundamentals of drama. This is just universal terminology used when writing and formatting your story. Knowing and understanding the elements is the easy part. Writing an intriguing and emotional story will, for most, take years of practice. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. Don't worry, I'm going to make this as easy to understand as I possibly can so you can be on your way to writing your own masterpiece. Like most people, you probably have a ton of ideas scattered throughout your brain or on a piece of paper somewhere. That's good. Now pick one and write that down on a piece of paper. It'll probably look something like this. This is called a log line. I'm afraid of copyright infringement right now, so I'm just going to use the one from my short film. And it's an excuse to shamelessly plug my own film, so. This is what you see on the back of DVDs, in the TV guide if anybody in the world still reads those, and in the description on Netflix. This is just a brief summary of the story. The story is what we, the audience, see happen in the main character's life. The more technical term for main character is protagonist. This is the person that the story follows. We see here that in the logline the main character is a woman, Patricia, who suffers from sleep paralysis and has her most disturbing encounter yet. I'm hoping after you read that you said to yourself, "That's so cool, I can't wait to see how it ends." That's just some really powerful wishful thinking. That just brings us to our next element, plot. The plot is how the story happens. So just remember that story is what happens, plot is how it happens. So now that you have your protagonist, story, and plot, you're gonna need some drama. That's where goals and obstacles come into play. We all have wants in our life. Those are our goals. The characters you write should not be any different. We also have things that constantly get in our way. Those are obstacles. How we deal with those obstacles, the actions that we take, is what defines our character. These can also be called tactics in screenwriting. That's why they say character is action, and action is character. Aristotle said that. He was a smart guy. You should look him up. It's how far an individual is willing to go to achieve their goal that separates a hero from a villain. The villain in a story is often referred to as the antagonist. They are the most prominent opposing force to the protagonist. So let's apply these elements to my short film. Patricia suffers from sleep paralysis. This is obviously terrifying. So she does not want to sleep alone. That is her goal. She then notices that her husband, who should be home, isn't home yet. That's her obstacle. Her action or tactic is to call him to get him home. She calls him and he says that he has to stay late to get ready for tomorrow. That's another obstacle. She knows that he's telling the truth, so she doesn't cause unnecessary drama. This shows her good character. This makes the audience like her and ultimately empathize with her later in the story. This pains the husband as well. He would much rather be home with his wife. We, the audience, see that in his facial expressions while talking to her. That's where subtext comes into play. It's not about what somebody says, it's how they say it, the underlying meaning of what the character says. Or what people do in the pauses between speaking, when you're listening to somebody, how you're actively listening and reacting. This makes the audience like him and ultimately empathize with him later in the story as well. Patricia then decides to try to stay on the couch watching videos to keep her awake. That's another tactic. We see that she is terrified of the bedroom. This is most likely due to most of her bad experiences happening in that room. So, in turn, she'll do anything she can to stay out of that room until her husband gets home. Here, the antagonist is not a person. It's like a supernatural entity that we, the audience, cannot see. The antagonist isn't always a person. Patricia manages to stay awake for a little bit, but ultimately she nods off. That's when everything starts to go downhill. This is the setup leading to the inciting incident. The inciting incident is the event that hooks or pulls the viewer into the story. It also throws the main character into the action. She eventually comes to hearing a loud crash, but can't move. Another obstacle. She is in fact having another episode. She then sees a figure emerge from the front door. She is terrified. As it gets closer, we see that it's her husband. She is utterly disturbed. It's never been this bad. Her last-ditch effort, tactic, is to close her eyes and try to snap out of it. It seems to have worked. She opens her eyes and is able to move. The conflict seems to have been resolved. Resolution in a story is when the problem has been dealt with. It can be happy, it can be sad. It depends on the story. She comes to the conclusion that it was just all a bad, lucid dream. She then looks at her phone and sees that she has several missed calls. She listens to the voicemail. Her friend is a cop who has just arrived on the scene of an accident. He can't bring himself to say it, but we, the audience, know exactly what happened. It then fades to black. We don't know what happens after. This is what is commonly referred to as a cliffhanger. One thing I learned in school that I never forgot is always leave the audience wanting more. I know some people hate not having closure, they want a definitive ending, but in my opinion, it's more fun to theorize and to use my imagination to think of how events took place after. So that is more than enough to get you started writing your short film. There's obviously way more to cover, but that will be for future videos. What we cover next will pertain to more feature-length films, stories with a 3-act structure. You can't really do that in 5 to 10 minutes. I want to see what you all come up with, so feel free to leave your log lines down in the comments. Just don't steal anybody else's idea. And that's the video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified every time a new video comes out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.
Yeah, I wanna run off and fly, and I'll tell myself it's fine.